So today I'm going to make a full-size brie. What I'm going to do is take my pie crust that I made earlier today. I'm going to roll it out. So a traditional brie is made with brie cheese and raspberry jam and a puff pastry. I don't like raspberries. I like cheese. I don't know why people make cheese and fruit to go together, or brie cheese anyway, and fruit, because it's just not my thing. So I came up with this a couple of years ago. And my friend Andrea absolutely loves it. So she requested that I make this today. So I've got my pie crust rolled out, and it doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to stick it on this plate here, cookie sheet here. I'm going to put my brie right in the middle of it. And then I'm going to clean off this table, chop up some mushrooms and some shallots to put on top before we bake it. So I have some sliced mushrooms, and I'm just going to take a knife and kind of break them down a little bit more, because we don't want those giant chunks in our brie when we go to eat it. So this is a rough chop. There's nothing fine and pretty about this one. We're just getting the mushroom pieces. Okay. Those in a bowl. Oh, that one's a little big. And then we're going to take our shallots, which is just a fancy name for a garlicky onion. So my husband will not be eating this dish. Not that he would anyway, because he's not a fan of brie, but he's really not a fan of garlic and onions. So through that outer layer of the shallot. Where the dirt is. I'm going to get that off. There's a lot on here. It looks like I'm going to have to rinse these. Alright, now I've cleaned up the shallots so we can start slicing. We're going to do a thin slice of just the shallots and break it apart. Then we're going to saute these in a saucepan before we add them to our brie. Okay, so I have my saute pan on medium. I'm going to take about a tablespoon of butter, melt it in the pan. Now this is a fancy pan my mother-in-law got me, so technically I don't need the butter, but I like the way butter tastes, so put butter in. And then we are going to add our mushrooms and shallots. And we are going to let that saute until it's all cooked all the way through. So I pulled my mushrooms and onions off the stove. And now all we have to do is layer them on top of our brie. I know it looks like a lot, but once the cheese melts, because it's a pretty thick cheese, if you don't have enough onions and mushrooms to go around, you'll end up with a whole lot of cheese and no other flavor. So we pile it on in the beginning. And then it'll melt throughout once we've finished. So now we're going to take our pie crust and we're just going to fold it in. It's a very artisan way of doing it, as my husband likes to say. This is what we call free form. So we're just going to pile it in like that, and then we're going to bake this in a 400-degree oven for 30 minutes. That's going to get that crust nice and crispy. So our brie, our mushroom and shallot brie is out of the oven, and all I'm going to do is move it very gently, because this is a very flaky crust, onto our serving dish so we can wrap that up and take it with us.